This is my new little pattern called a barrel bag. We've made a short video for you to be able to see how to make it. There's only a couple of parts that you might have trouble with, but this should make it easier. The bag is about 5 inches in diameter. It's 8 inches long, has a little handle and a zipper in the top. So if you've purchased the kit, which you would have had to have done to be able to view this video, here are the parts that are in the kit. There are strips of white, strips of black. These are for the body. We have batting and lining and also the focus fabric for the ends of the bag. We have the pieces, which is a little piece of batting and a piece of the focus fabric for the strap. One zipper, the backing and the batting. All of the pieces for the strips and also the circles have been precision die cut, so everything should go together really nicely. Okay, let's get started. Okay, I'm going to start by sewing strip sets. I have one black and one white. Everything needs to be sewn with a 1/4 inch seam in order to ensure that it fits the circle when we get to that point. After I get done sewing into the strip sets, I'm going to press towards the dark. When I finish sewing all of the strip sets together, I'm going to press so that everything goes in the same direction. So first sew everything into sets of 2. Press, clip them apart, and then press. And continue sewing until you have one large piece. It will have 14 strips in it when it's completed. Okay, I've now sewn all of my strips together. Like I said before, there are 14 strips. They're now 1-inch strips because I've taken off the seam allowance. I've pressed all of the seams in the same direction. Now what I want to do is layer it together with my batting and my backing to make a quilt sandwich. So I have the backing down first, then I'm going to have the right sides of the 2 fabrics together, the batting and the stripped piece. The backing will be just a bit larger than the stripped piece. I'm now going to sew 1/4 inch seams along each end of the stripped piece, and then I'm going to trim the batting and the backing to match the size of the stripped piece. Okay, what I've done now is I've trimmed the ends. I have my 1/4 inch seam allowance on both ends, and I've trimmed away the excess batting and backing. I now want to pick it up and I want to fold the seam allowance toward the batting. And I'm going to turn it to the inside. I'm going to put it under the machine, and I'm going to do a top stitch right along this edge, securing all the batting together. Just top stitch as close as you can to the edge. This will help when you do the zipper insertion. Okay, this finishes one end. Repeat the same thing on the other end, securing all batting together. Okay, I've now pressed both ends after turning, so I have a pretty sharp edge on the ends. That'll make it a lot easier to put the zipper in. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stitch in the ditch, and I'm going to stitch in the ditch on the white fabrics because I'm using white thread and it won't show. I've also changed the foot to a foot with more visibility so I'd be able to see to do the stitching in the ditch. And if you do this on every white one, you'll have stitching about 2 inches apart, which to me is plenty. But it's also an opportunity if you wanted to do some cute stitches off your machine that you could do them down the middle of the white fabrics in order to make it a little more decorative. So that's an individual taste. But I'm going to do that about every 2 inches down the entire piece. Okay, I now have done the quilting in the ditch throughout. Next we're going to put the zipper on. So use one end, you have your finished ends, put your zipper underneath and center in your piece. And I haven't even basted these. What I'm going to do is just stick some pins in while I sew it. You want to hold the teeth of the zipper back from your quilted piece because it is thick and you don't want it to get caught when you use your zipper. So I'm going to just put a few pins along here. I've also put the zipper foot on the machine because you will need the zipper foot to sew this down. These flathead pins are really handy for this because they are so long. Okay, I'm going to take it to the machine and I'm going to just sew along the very edge once again now from the top. If you're not comfortable using the pins, you might want to baste. That's a personal preference. Okay, so I've attached the zipper on one side. Now what you're going to do is fold it around and do the same thing on the other end. The second end is harder to sew because you've now got a cylinder, but if you unzip, you'll find that it works much easier. Okay, what I've done now is I've sewn the other edge of the zipper so the zipper's fully sewn in, but we need to even up the end of the fabrics. So I'm placing the rotary cutter, the ruler with the rotary cutter across the end, and I'm going to trim it even with the end of the zipper. It's a little thick, so you're going to have to apply some pretty good pressure. Okay, that's now trimmed even with the end of the zipper. I'm going to do the same thing on the other end with the end of the zipper. Also, I've quilted together the end piece. I've got the batting, the backing, and the focus fabric. I've just done an X through the center to hold them together so I'll be able to put them in. Okay, I've now trimmed the second end of the bag, and now we're going to make the strap. What I've done is pressed under a 1/4 inch on one side, a 1/2 inch on the other. I've laid my piece of 3/4 inch wide batting inside, and I'm going to just fold this over the top, and if you sew down one straight seam, you'll have it all encased with no raw edges showing. So I'll set that aside because here's a finished strap which I've now attached to the bag. You want to pull your zipper tapes as close together as you can. Sew this across the end to hold it while you sew the ends in. It'll be much easier that way. And I've done 3 or 4 rows of stitching across there to reinforce it and hold it so it can't come apart. But that's the way the strap goes on. Okay, we're about to finish our bag. We've cut both ends off even with the zippers. We've applied our little handle. Now we need to turn it wrong side out. What you need to do next is mark quarters. This will make it much easier to put the ends in if you've marked quarters. So I just mark mine with a pin. And if you've quilted an X through the middle of your end, you already have quarters. So you just need to place those with right sides together and pin those on your quarter marks. When you get to the end with the zipper tape, be sure that you bring the ends of your tape together. You will need an extra pin on that part. As you work around, you can tell that it's going to lay really nice. Stick some extra pins in just to hold it while you sew, but all of your circle will go in very evenly. Okay, now all you need to do is take it to the machine, sew your 1/4 inch around, and if you sew it with the circle on top, it'll be much easier to sew. After you do that, you can either edge finish with a zigzag stitch, or you can take it to your serger if you have one, put a little serged edge on there, and you won't have any exposed edges. Okay, that pretty much concludes our video. When you get done, you'll have a bag that looks like this. It's a really fun little project for a guild or for a gift to give to someone. It should take between an hour and an hour and a half to make. And if you've pressed after each step, you're going to have a much nicer little bag when you get through. So if you like our bag, you might also like something else that we have on the website. My web address is fancyquilt.com. Thanks for listening, thanks for buying our pattern, and I hope you have fun with your bag.